Okay, 9:02. This is Thursday, June 11th, and we'll begin the office hours discussion, be a little bit more formal. And at the end of this talk, if you want to stick around, we'll talk about fermentation as well. In the week that is this week, we do have another MCP Q&A that went up this morning. I should have had it ready to go to show you guys, and I do, but now I've lost you. Where are you? There you are. I'll share my screen and put that up. This is technically not the version that you're looking at, my editing on the web, but this is what's up now. I put at the top email to local officials, and this is basically just, not surprisingly, confirming that in this time, if you can't print out letters and mail them to local officials, that we would exercise enforcement discretion for making the notifications to local officials by email, rather than insisting that it be done by old mail, snail mail, or by hand delivering them. This is, of course, the direction that we were going in the planned reg revisions, which should be finalized sometime this year. And so we wanted to be clear that we'll have that enforcement discretion flexibility to do that now. So that's up. Hope that's helpful for people that need that clarification. Any other questions that people have, continue to send them in. We'll continue to put them up and talk about them. The other thing that we're focusing on, and as we move ahead and kind of not shift away from COVID, because this is going to be with us for a while, but doing other things, is DEP is taking a look at all of our operations and activities and the way we do business, and trying to see if there are things that we can do different and better to be bring different voices in, be more diverse, recognizing that institutionally we're a product of a lot of different factors, and it's would not be surprising that as we've kind of moved ahead through time, that we're not doing all that we can to reach out and be as inclusive as possible, and solicit and listen to and take into account other voices beyond the people that we usually talk to. So we're kind of internally looking at that, and I think I'll just throw this out there for now. I think in the future at our advisory committee meetings, we'll be prepared to have some discussions about how we can do things differently, better. I think we're always open, always have been open to revising certainly the wayside cleanup program, to do things better, to learn from what we've done in the past and make changes. Here, I think we want to particularly focus on, are there people that we're not hearing? Are there activities that have, whether it's intentional or unintentional biases, whether we're protecting the environment and protecting the people the way that we should be. And it's worth taking some time and looking at that. So I think it certainly deserves a deeper dive than we can do in these office hour meetings. But as we plan for the next advisory committee meeting, I think that's one of the things that we would have on our agenda. And like I said, we're just beginning to have those discussions internally as well. So it ranges from everything from our internal hiring practices and how we do that, to kind of certainly the obvious things like looking at who we listen to and who participates in advisory committee meetings, and are there ways that we can get broader representation to that, and then the harder questions of our regulations and processes and technology. Is there anything that we can do differently that would improve those? So that's what's coming up in the next few weeks and months and into the future, in addition to dealing with these COVID issues. I think that's all I have in terms of news and program updates for everybody. So I'll look to the regions to see if there's anything new and interesting that, any site work that you want to highlight or talk about. And Liz, of course, and anybody else from DEP. And, if not, we can then go to the other participants, the regulated community. I'm seeing Gerard, so I'll pick on Gerard.
Thanks.
How's the Southeast region doing?
Doing okay. Actually, in the Southeast region, received our first 120-day notification for PFAS on groundwater. That's pretty exciting. Mm-hmm. All the other PFAS sites have kind of been pre-identified by us and discovered through RFIs and things like that. So this is the first one that came to us unsolicited. So we're working on that and hopefully getting out in the field this very soon to do a number of sampling activities in Dartmouth and Hanover-Hanson and places like that. So it's a good time to get out there. Hanover-Hanson will be fun. It'll be sediment sampling, so we'll be canoeing around, which should be pretty enjoyable.
And everybody has to have their separate canoes.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is good for COVID, not good for other health and safety. Well, I guess it would be good for other health and safety purposes.
Yeah, well, the health part.
The both don't fall out.
Yeah. Everybody has to pull their own weight that way. It's better for your health. Anything else internally want to mention? Liz, do you have anything you want to? Nope. Okay, well, I'll throw it open to the outside world. Any big issues? One thing that did happen this week is the LSP board met on Tuesday. I didn't participate, but I heard that it went well, and certainly on the from our perspective, we had courses approved for DEP regulatory credit, which is great. But also just having the process work well was good. Anybody participate in that? Want to say anything about how well it went, or how it went?
I was there for the first 2 hours of it, and it went well in the sense that they didn't get Zoom bombed. There's still a few technical issues to begin with. There was a point where Beverly couldn't hear anybody else. I don't know if she got disconnected or what happened, but ultimately they got the work done, which is what matters in this. So yep. They got people approved. The one thing that I did see was that at least one of the application review panels had not met. So one of the two people on it, including one of GZA people, got pushed off until the next meeting. So it's another delay of a couple months, which is unfortunate. And they still don't have a date for the exam.
Yeah. Well,
Paul, the courses, this Elliot, the courses that were approved, were those the LSPA dinner meetings? There had been 2 or 3 of them, I guess, that were tentatively for credit pending approval of the board, or were those for other courses?
Well, I know that there were I know that there were DEP LSPA courses that were being approved, some that had been given in the past and were being approved for online, and then at least one that I certainly know of that is going to be new and online. So those are the ones that were most of interest to me. I think there were others on the agenda, like the board, the monthly meetings that were pending approval. I think those were there. Nancy Fitzpatrick, were you at that meeting? Were those other ones approved as well?
Yes, Paul. All the DEP trainings were approved. There were two that I recall that were tabled that were from the geosciences group, primarily because they didn't provide information on polling and confirmation of attendance. So they're looking for more information for that. There were some smaller evening group meetings that had taken place that I don't believe were approved because they did not have information on the attendance and pulling the necessary information. So I think the board was going to respond to them to see if they had more information, but those smaller short meetings that previously taken place have not been approved.
Elliot, in terms of the courses that have already happened, the NPDES course, that was retroactively approved, and the PFAS upcoming course, and what was the last one, Nancy? Oh, the audit course that is upcoming. So those were the DEP courses.
Yeah, Liz, the ones the ones that weren't approved, sorry about the wind, were from Enviro workshops. Those are the ones I heard that were not approved. And they are like 1.5 hour courses that they've given through April and May, and are still giving about 3 a week. And so they were the ones that didn't have demonstration of assessment of learning and things like that. So they were sent back. Matt Heckman.
Thanks, Matt. So any other questions? Anything we can help with? Any problems you're running into? How's your experiences going out and doing work? Are you seeing kind of movement, things happening out there? Yeah.
Yeah. Things are still busy.
Good. The more unremarkable it is, the better, I would say.
That's how we like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, then
Paul?
Yes.
So this is Matt again, out on the windy beach. I had sent you something we saw in the Philadelphia Inquirer that New Jersey has found a new class, Liz Denley tells me, of PFAS compounds that they are now concerned about. And I just wondered if you had taken a look at that and whether Massachusetts would be looking at what New Jersey is doing as well.
Yes, so I've forwarded that to Mark Smith in our Office of Research and Standards. I mean, we're always looking at what everybody else does, continually. I think right now we are certainly focused on the PFAS compounds that we have standards for, that the drinking water standard will address when it goes into effect, hopefully later this summer. But I think ORS is always kind of looking at the information for a wide range of PFAS compounds and related compounds, both kind of down the chain, the chain length size, and the variety of different compounds, different kind of chemical groups attached, the different varieties that are out there. And it's partly a matter of kind of what the analytical methods will also allow us to look at. So there are a lot of wild cards out there, and we'll be following along, but I can't say, I wouldn't say that we're on the verge of expanding what we're specifically regulating right now. I would view this.
Well, given that there are, like, when we started out our sampling course with Liz and Jim and all of them, there were 3,000 plus compounds, and now there are 5,000 compounds, and so it just, I guess, in case there are any young people worried about whether there's a future in environmental protection, I think this sort of guarantees the next 2 generations full time.
Well, that's good. Again, as you know, the father of a budding chemist, I'm always glad to hear that. Yeah, yeah. I also saw that New Jersey finalized a couple more of their drinking water standards in the teen range as well. So not different significantly from what we're doing, and that comes as no surprise. Any other comments, contributions?
Jumping back to the LSP board meeting, there was a question about, this is to anyone who knows, whether the license renewal dockets were approved.
Yeah, they were, Liz.
Okay.
Yeah, all the dockets that I heard were approved, right, Larry? The longest discussion was on the person who had a January renewal but had been extended 90 days to April, and then whether the extension till August 18th applied to them. But I think the general feeling was that anybody who was due in January who didn't get an extension didn't get the extension to August, and everybody else should, if there's any concern or you have a problem, call Chris Borges, right, Larry?
I think that sums it up, Matthew. Yep.
Okay. So, a last call for any issues or items to talk about?
Well, I think the only other sort of important thing that came out of the board meeting was that they agreed for, I think, maybe the first time, right, Larry, to meet in July, or to attempt to meet in July, and they have set a tentative schedule for next year.
No, I was not around for the end of the meeting, Matthew, so didn't hear that part. But no.
Oh, okay, they did. You know, the problem, I guess, is that Ms. Weiss normally gets July off for her vacation, but they were going to try to find a date in July to have another GoToWebinar online meeting in July because of the concern about a lot of course approvals likely coming in for online courses. Mm-hmm. And they went ahead and they set, despite uncertainty, they set their schedule for the year because they usually do that at their June meeting. So that should be getting posted shortly.
Yeah, I had heard that there was a possibility of a July meeting as well. So I'm glad to hear it. So it sounds a little bit more certain. Okay. Well, in that case, if there's nothing else, then
what's that on your desk, Paul?
The formal part of the discussion is over, and we can move on to the fermentation discussion, which is what I promised would be the topic this time. That is a bottle. I love it, the fermentation, partly just because you get to buy new toys, new equipment. And they're relatively inexpensive. That is a mason jar half filled with sliced radishes, currently undergoing fermentation, being held down by a homegrown grape leaf in a glass weight, and then a fermentation lock on top. So I have a number of these now going. I haven't tasted them yet, so it's all look and show, and who knows from a culinary perspective how good it will be. But the radishes are actually bubbling away quite well. They seem to be fermenting happily, whereas my similar jar of cherries seems to be a bit more reluctant to ferment. So it seems to be just sitting there.
And what will you do with that once it is fermented to your satisfaction?
Well, I think the what are those again? Radishes, right? The radishes, they're going to go on hamburgers. They're going to go on salads. So the taste should be a little bit acidic, not like pickled, but getting there. and a little bit sweeter, and for radishes, kind of less sharp taste. But it does supposedly, maintain a bit, much of the crispiness of radishes, just so you get the mouthfeel. You'll get a different taste. The cherries will go on ice cream or into Manhattans.
Much better idea, yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh, they're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Last week, I think I'd held up one of my jars of garlic ginger paste, and that will pretty much go on everything once that's done. And I have a package of different technology, plums in a vacuum sealed bag that is undergoing fermentation now. That started last night, and a jar of mushrooms, which actually should be coming out of fermentation in another day or two. So that will probably be the first thing I'm tasting. That might come out tonight because I have some steaks that some mushrooms on top might be pretty good.
Paul, you got some advice on your cherries.
Oh. Yeah, the cherries are acidic. Likely need to balance the pH. Well, the fermentation, this is using lactobacilli, so you actually want an acidic substrate, acid and salt. And this is all done anaerobically, so the acid and salt is important to keep down the botulism. A minor thing that could go wrong. But
so is this forming prebiotics?
Yeah, I mean, this is all, if you read the literature, and I do it for the fun of it, but a lot of the literature that you read in the books, it almost has a food religion sort of approach to it, and the whole kind of probiotics and all of the wonderful things that can be done, that it will do for you. It's live culture. It's the same reason one would eat yogurt or, anything along those lines. It's supposedly good for your intestinal flora and fauna. So, and it tastes good, which is really, and it's kind of fun dabbling in it, which is why I'm doing it. I know in the end, I'm going to have all of this, preserved food that I'm going to have a hard time getting through. So, my neighbors benefit from this, just like they're getting the load of sourdough waffles I'm going to make today, and I'm not allowed to put in my freezer because the freezer is already full of things. So it's always good to have a 3-year-old living next door. Because they'll eat anything. So no fermentation, no. Larry had casks behind him when we first started. So where were those from, Larry?
Some Irish pub. This is pulled offline. Unfortunately, those are not personal. I should go out to one of the local breweries and get pictures there, but it's the best I could do.
So Paul.
Yep.
We don't ferment, but we do infuse. And this started out as a very clear vodka that we infused with figs. And you cut up Black Mission figs and leave them in a decanter of vodka for about 2 weeks. And this is what you end up with. And it's extremely good. It's nowhere near as difficult as fermentation. Just sit there and watch it, the figs take over. But you can take a very average vodka and infuse them with figs, and it smooths it right out. It's phenomenal.
Huh. Yeah.
And what are you doing with that at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Just brought it for show and tell.
Just show and tell.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, I'm here for you, Joel.
You want some?
Yes.
Yeah, the whole thing about infusing vodkas. When I was working in a darkroom back in the mid '80s, and the guy who ran the darkroom was into that, and we went to his house one time, and his freezer was just full of vodkas with things infusing into it. But I think they take it, the flavored vodka thing, they take it pretty far, when you end up with cotton candy flavored vodka.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Just wrong.
But so nobody else actually doing fermenting is really easy, I would say. You don't even need the jar, that the fancy setup, which costs all of like $3.49 there. Mason jars with just keeping the cover loose works just as well, as long as you keep whatever food is in there pushed down below the water level, so it goes anaerobic. And even if it goes aerobic,
the loose is a key, Paul. So we not much fermentation in my family, except the family famous story of the great aunt who was famous for making the root beer in her basement, and she did make root beer in her basement. And a mischievous great nephew of hers who told her that it could be improved if she would put a raisin in each bottle before capping it. And the explosions that went off in the basement alarmed the elderly lady. And he was roundly punished, but everyone thought it was a great story. So fermentation.
I've had two explosions happen. One was back in probably 1990 when I first started brewing beer. And this was in a triple decker in Boston. And we had it in being stored in a closet, and came home one day to just find cases, 2 cases of beer just all over the floor and soaking into the old hardwood floors. And so we went down to Alice, our landlady, this 70-year-old Irish ancestry woman, and very, very sadly told her, sorry, Al, it smells like a brewery up there. We'll clean it up, we'll get it done, but just wanted you to know in case it's leaking down into the apartment below us. And she said, don't worry about it. Back in Prohibition, my family used to brew stuff in the bathtubs all the time. That used to happen to us all the time. And she was perfectly fine with it as long as we gave her some beer. And then there's another time, actually just a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I had quite a bit of stuff in the basement down here, just sitting in storage. And we went away on vacation, and a heat wave ensued, and came back, and there was glass and beer all over the place. But other than that, that's twice in probably 30 years of brewing beer that we had bad experiences. So I keep a handle on that. But that's it. Anybody eat a lot of kimchi? That's going to be one of my next.
I was going to ask you about that. That seems to be the basic fermentation project.
Yeah, kimchi, coleslaw. Yeah. So we'll see. That may be next. Yeah, right now it's depending on what we're getting in the boxes of from the farm, in the CSA deliveries. So we'll see. More on that later. This is probably enough for now then. And we'll end the informal part of this.
What is our topic for next week?
Oh, what should we do next week? How about movies?
Oh, good.
What movies? Specifically movies, not television shows. Let's spread this out as much as we can. So think about your all-time favorite movies, or movies that are helping you get through COVID, movies that you found to be educational, that you've learned something, movies that come with a story for you. Okay, and with that, we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah,
Okay.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Bye, guys. Thanks very much.
Bye.